Hello and welcome to EduCurious. So glad you joined us today. We have a special guest with us, Amanda Bryant, who has been a long-term sub on our campus, does an excellent job. She's a familiar face around campus. And so if you're wondering how to even get started in the education world, she's got some great expertise, insight, maybe some things to do, some things not to do. So she is here with us and she's willing to share all that she's learned over the years. So welcome, Amanda. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
To get us started, I just want to hear a little bit about your background. Tell me about, your history, how you got into being a long-term sub.
So I actually don't have a history in education. It's primarily in healthcare, but I had a pretty good gap in my working history because of COVID. I was a stay-at-home mom. Somebody had to stay home with the kids, and that was me. So I did that for probably three and a half years almost. And when I decided I wanted to get back into working, I just started applying at things that would interest me because going from being with my kids all the time to going back into the workforce and having a little guy at the time was actually kind of scary for me. And with all the changes with COVID and everything, so I applied with the school and got an interview and I got hired. And the process of getting hired was actually pretty easy as long as you're like a good human and you can pass the drug test and a background check and all of that. It worked out well for me because I was able to be with my kids pretty much all the time still. So I didn't feel like I was losing out on anything as far as like the stay-at-home mom thing went.
Can you walk us through the steps that you would take? Like, oh, I want to be a sub. What do I do first?
So you kind of have to decide which school system that you want to be working for, first of all. Polk County schools, and then there's Lake Wales Charter School System, and they are completely separate.
So if I applied for the Lake Welsh Charter School System and went through the process, did the application, did the background screening, the drug test, got the green light, then what does the process look like once you're in the system? How would I get into a school to start subbing? Would I be getting into any school? Like, what does it look like when I go to see, okay, where am I going to be on a particular day? What's that look like?
There's an app that you can go on to, and all the teachers that have positions that need to be filled, they use the same system. So if a teacher needs their class covered for a specific amount of time, they're going to put it in there, and you can go in there and you can select the shifts that you actually want. Sometimes I am able to ask my admin at the school that I am particularly at, hey, is there anything coming available that you need help with? And they'll put me in something if they need extra help somewhere. But I've also been at the school now for 2 years. So I think that's like a relationship building type thing. And I prefer to be at one specific school. It kind of just depends. But most of the time, the process would be going into the app. You see everything lined up and you're able to select where you want to be. So you can work at the high school, middle school, elementary school, and you can be at a different school every day if you wanted to.
What are some things that you find helpful going in? You go into a classroom and it's a particular subject area or certain teacher that you're working with. What do you want to know to make your life easier when you go into that new classroom and you're covering for a teacher?
Going in, I think, especially for a lot of teachers, it is overwhelming thinking about like the time that you're going to be off, the unexpected, the unknown times that pop up where you wake up in the morning and your child is sick or you're sick or something happens tragically or whatever that you need to miss a day. But some teachers I've found have made like a sub binder, and it's helpful because there's a lot of resources in it, but there's a lot of information that's still not there. But for someone that's coming in that's newer, that doesn't know what to expect, where the clinic passes are, what the teacher's rules, because there's a set of class rules and expectations, and every teacher is different. Every teacher across that I've ever worked for is completely different. And then there's a set of campus rules and expectations that your principal sets and your, guidance staff wants you to follow. And so there's two sets of rules usually. So just having that helpful binder, I think, in every classroom and being organized so like an unfamiliar face walks in, everything they need is right there. I think that would be really helpful.
Did you have to do any sub training prior to starting, or is there a sub training available?
There was an orientation, which is helpful because it does go over some general stuff. It goes over the HIPAA, it goes over, school rules and, regulations and all of. So I had the opportunity this year to do two long-term positions at the school. And one was for a history class, and one was for an English class. Completely different experiences. The history class was the first time I ever did a long-term assignment other than just going in and out of different classes every day. I was there for, I think, 4 or 5 weeks. And my history and civics teachers were great. Lesson plans, classroom management, getting things organized, making sure I had all of the things that I needed. And then my English class was a completely different, experience as well. But I want to make sure that they are where they need to be, that they're not falling behind, that we're not just coming to class and it's a free 45-minute period.
I noticed working with you in different capacities, one of your biggest strengths is how organized you are and how you have such attention to detail. Does that come into play when you're subbing?
So I like to have that organization because it sets the tone for how the day is going to go, and it sets the tone of expectations for how that class period is going to go.
So, in the event that you do walk into a classroom and you can't find the carefully constructed subplans, or if they are absent, like they just don't have subplans, do you come in with your own plan in mind to help things run smoothly, to have that structure for the kids?
And so it's easier if there is no plan for me to just say, what were you doing yesterday? Do you have a test coming up this week? Let's study for that. Let's go over your stuff from yesterday and study. Or what can we do to make sure you're caught up in your other classes? Are you missing any work in this class or missing any work in the other classes? And so we kind of go that route. I would go to your department partner teachers and say, hey, I can't find the plans. Are there any? They say no. Okay, well, what can I do to keep these kids on track?
So you're not afraid to lean over and ask for help. It's not that you can't do
Yeah.
it. It's like you don't want to give them too much space where they're going to fall behind. You're ready to just keep on the momentum. So I thought your answer was very helpful. And then if there's no plans, it sounds like you're almost doing like a mentor catch up. Okay, let's get this going. I'm almost going to tutor you through what we do have plans for, because a lot of our information is on Schoology. You can just
Yeah.
jump right in there and see what's supposed to be happening.
The Schoology part is really helpful because a lot of the kids can go on to Schoology, and even if they've already completed an assignment and they're still working on the same unit for something for world history, and they know that, okay, this is a 2-week unit. There's going to be a big test at the end of this. There's no plans. Okay, go back through those units, those previous things that you've worked on, and watch the videos and use it as a study hour. And, that's kind of what I try to do.
So, what have been some of your biggest challenges subbing classes?
Behavioral issues is
Mhm.
probably the biggest one. Going from different schools, it might be harder to kind of build those relationships in that respect on campus, and they're more amped to behave better for you when they know you better and they know that you're not going to put up with it.
How can administration and some of your teachers in the hallway help you with behavioral issues? Do you want administration to be in classrooms more when there's a sub? Do you want to have the green light to send a kid from your room just to the neighbor classroom if they're acting unruly or distracting? What do you think would help you the most?
I know that I have support from my hallway teachers, from my unit teachers, from all the teachers on campus where I typically sub at. And I know that if I need admin's presence in my classes, they're going to be there. And I've never had that issue with them. But I will say probably for most subs, it would probably be helpful every so often for admin just to pop in and out. Admin can pop in at any time, and if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to get in trouble. and magically they pop in and I'm like, see, and usually that sets the tone for the rest of the class because when admin pops in unexpectedly and they go, oh, I can't, oh, I could get in trouble if I had that out or did this or I was misbehaving this way, they're now expecting that it could happen again. And so usually it straightens them up. But I will say when I call or I need assistance from any of my fellow teachers, I don't have an issue with that.
And are there any other things that might enhance a sub experience?
Yeah, I think giving your students and yourself grace and knowing that everyone's going to have a bad day. And so if you go into that classroom the next day, that student might not act the same way. And I think not having that like haste towards certain people is a huge deal as well.
Besides being organized and being a fixer, tell me about some of your biggest strengths in this role.
The relationships I've built with my students. So the first year I was a sub, I was also the head cheer coach. And so I already had some relationships built with students going into it, which was very helpful. And then being the cheer coach, I was able to foster more relationships, which was extremely helpful. But my relationships that I have with the students, I adore that. That is for me what keeps me wanting to keep going back to the same school and keep wanting to be there. And once my daughter goes to high school, I'm like, I'm probably going to stay here because I enjoy the staff. I enjoy the kids. I enjoy being able to like go, okay, well here I'm here to help you with your work and make sure that the class is going smooth. But knowing that like if they're having a bad day or they need someone to make them laugh or cheer them up, like they find me. Every student is different. And I think if you go into this thinking that like you can treat every student the same and you're going to get the same outcome, that's going to be anything further from the truth. No matter what age range, from kindergarten to being a senior, you have to learn and take time to care for each personality and like know what each child needs. And that's a lot. It's a lot to take on, but it's probably my favorite part of the job. So for me, that I think is my biggest strength on campus is my relationships with my students.
So, Amanda, are you planning on being in the educational world long term, or are you wanting to take some of the big items and lessons that you've learned in education and use it to pursue other career pathways?
When I was younger, I am perfectly happy being the person who comes into the classroom when they need help, when they need a day off, when when they're on vacation or when admin needs, coverage for something because they're doing data days or something. I am perfectly fine being that person. I think those who are starting out, it's a good place to start to get your feet wet, to go, do I want to be a teacher? Let's go try this out. Now, being a sub is completely different than being an actual teacher. It is worlds apart, but you get your feet wet and you can go, okay, do I like being in the classroom? Do I like managing an entire class of students? Do I like teaching up in front of them? Do I like the lesson plan part of it, the disciplinary plan? So for those who are thinking about going to school for education, but have, the worries of, I'm not sure I can go to school for 4 to 5 years to do this. And what if I go to school for 4 to 5 years and I don't like it? I think being a sub is very helpful as a guiding post to determine that.
Thanks for sharing your adventures in this world with us. You have such a big variety of challenges and a lot of unexpected things come up. So I commend you for doing what you do. Anytime you're on campus, I'm like, I don't have to worry. It's going to be okay. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on EduCurious. I'm glad that you stopped in today. We'll learn about substitute teaching, what it takes, and how to do it. So see you again next time where we do another interview with an educator on various topics, maybe AI or being a bus driver or being a principal or admin. So I hope to see you again later. See ya.